All right, let's check out. Let's check out some of the child marriage stuff here. These are short. These are
Oh
short.
no.
Child marriage.
Always
Oh,
child marriage with these guys.
right. They certainly do love the topic of child marriage. It is funny, guys, because that's again going back to what I was saying earlier about should we really be doing this? And I'm saying you got to be relentless. Go back 15, 20 years. You said Muhammad married a child. Everyone said you were lying. Everyone said you were lying. Now that everyone's trying to defend it. They're all trying to
Mm.
defend it. Why? Because we kept pushing. That's why you keep pushing.
Hey ChatGPT, does Islam allow you to marry children today?
Islam does not
Yes.
allow child brides today.
What?
Marriage in Islam requires consent, maturity, and the ability to fulfill responsibilities.
Where? Hey, open challenge. What's his channel? White Muslim guy or white Muslim?
White Muslim guy.
White Muslim guy. Show us that in your sources. Show us.
Mm-hmm.
Show us Islam requires maturity. Any of that nonsense. Hang on, let me back up.
There's consent, maturity, and the ability to.
Consent. You said consent. What did Muhammad say about a young girl who's a virgin and consent? Do you know?
When?
White
When did he
Muslim
say
guy?
that?
Why don't you ask ChatGPT that? But I'll tell you right now. He said her silence is her consent.
Oh.
In other words, she's not objecting and not screaming, "Hey, no, don't marry me off to this guy," because her parents told her to shut up, and that's her consent. Weirdo.
Fulfill responsibilities. Most Muslim countries set legal marriage ages, and scholars
Why? Because Western nations made them.
Forced them to. Yes, absolutely.
Western, you hear this?
Absolutely.
The Muslim nations just decided on all these minimum ages for marriage. Western nations made them do that. Weird.
Yeah, let me find
agree that
paper.
marriage should happen only when both are mature and ready.
Both are mature and Aisha was 9. Where are you getting that from? Where? Both are mature. What is this? Like they have not. ChatGPT hasn't said one correct word yet.
Yo, the paper I was looking for is The Shadow of Empire, Christian Missionaries, Colonial Policy and Democracy in Post-Colonial Societies. He points out that, the reason India had a marriage age starting at 12 and then they slowly moved it up was because of the British rule there. They're the one, and what happened when they set that marriage age at 12, the Muslims and the Hindus rioted, like absolutely rioted. Like over something like that. You're not letting us marry 11-year-olds? How dare you? How dare you? So yeah, Western nations had to compromise even. They like, we'll start at 12, and then years later they started to move it up more. But you get the idea. Like this idea that Islam just did this is no, that's not exactly what happened.
Yeah, so everything there, total lie. Everything there so far, total lie. But
Yeah.
let's see. We'll probably watch it again because it's short and like you have to kind of. I had to stop on like everything you said because it's all wrong. But hey, you might want to type into ChatGPT. Does Islam allow child marriage? That's what he said, right?
Let's do it.
I'm interested. If it is this bad, and he didn't program it to say that, that is seriously messed up. 'Cause
Does
this is completely
Islam
wrong.
allow? Islam does not encourage child marriage, but interpretations of Islamic law regarding the minimum age of marriage vary. The Quran does not explicitly set a minimum age for marriage, but it emphasizes the importance of mutual consent and the ability to fulfill marital responsibilities. Historically, child marriage occurred in many cultures, including among Muslims, but contemporary scholars in Islamic countries have set the legal minimum age for marriage, often around puberty or older, to ensure maturity and readiness for responsibility. Many Islamic scholars today advocate for setting an appropriate minimum age for marriage based on well-being, education, and societal norms.
So very different from the answer he got, right? I mean, I'd still have all kinds of problems with your answer based on what's in the Muslim sources, and
sure.
because we know why Muslim nations started having these minimum ages and so on. It's because of Western pressure, not because of this magically sprang out of Islam. And on the issue of consent, it requires consent. Muhammad said her consent is her silence. As long as she keeps her mouth shut because her dad told her to, boom, in there like swimwear. Let's finish this.
Islam emphasizes justice and protection, aligning with ending child marriage.
If you're an Islamophobe, just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. Sorry, Charlie.
Oh, do you see that, David? Just because
Yep.
you say it doesn't mean it's true. I wonder if you have any sources on this. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
I mean, guys, how insane is that? Everything in there has nothing to do with actually what's in the Muslim sources. And it's just this arrogant, condescending way of spouting nonsense. And that's what works in Islam. Hey, bud, white Muslim guy, you want to see what your sources actually say? Check this out. Think, what did ChatGPT just say? It said, no, Islam leads you out of child marriage because of its emphasis on justice and blah, blah, blah. What is this? This is Sahih al-Bukhari. This is a chapter introduction for 5133. Giving one's young children in marriage is permissible. Young children. Wait a minute. I thought Islam leads you out of child marriage. Why is it permissible? By virtue of the statement of Allah. And for those who have no monthly courses, i.e. they are still immature. It's talking about marrying, having sex with, and divorcing girls all before they've reached puberty. And it mentions there, while they're still immature, they haven't reached puberty. And the iddah, that's the waiting period before this girl can marry someone else after you are divorcing her. The iddah for the girl before puberty is 3 months in the above verse. So notice, it's girl before puberty. Girl before puberty. This is talking about pre-pubescent girls, marrying, having sex with, divorcing, and passing on to the next guy. And the hadith that's given as an example of this narrated Aisha that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. Then she remained with him for 9 years, i.e. till his death. What do we have here? Sahih al-Bukhari. The Prophet wrote the marriage contract with Aisha while she was 6 years old, consummated his marriage while she was 9 years old. She remained with him for 9 years till his death. 6130. Narrated Aisha, I used to play with dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's messenger used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. He liked watching all the little girls playing together. And then notice what you have here. The playing with dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Everyone getting that? Everyone getting that?
Now, they'll say that's not in the hadith. That's a commentator, David.
By Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the greatest hadith commentator of all time, pointing out, because any Muslim who reads, wait a minute, Aisha was playing with dolls. How could she play with dolls? Dolls are images. Images are forbidden. He explains, this was only enforced once you reach puberty. If you're a prepubescent, you're allowed to play with dolls. If you've reached puberty, you're not allowed to play with dolls. So Aisha playing with dolls means, in an Islamic context, she hadn't reached puberty.
Powerful.
And as far as the Quran goes, this is the verse, ladies and gentlemen. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, so these are women who have gone through menopause and they don't have a monthly menstrual cycle anymore. This verse is about, Surah 65, verse 4, is about, it's a response to some questions that arose because the Quran had already declared that if you want to divorce someone, you have to wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles before she can marry again. But some questions arose. What about women who have gone through menopause, so they don't have a monthly menstrual cycle, or girls who are too young, or pregnant women who don't have a monthly menstrual cycle? In other words, what do we do here? And here's a response. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the iddah, prescribed period, if you have doubt about their periods, is 3 months. So wait 3 months instead of 3 monthly menstrual cycles because they're too old to have a monthly menstrual cycle. And for those who have no courses, i.e. they are still immature, their iddah, prescribed period, is 3 months likewise, except in the case of death. So if you're divorcing a 6-year-old or divorcing a 7-year-old because you've gotten tired of her and you want to pass her on to the next guy, then after you divorce her, she's going to have to wait 3 months before the next pedophile can have sex with her.
What's the source on this one again?
That's the Quran, Surah 65, verse 4.
Oh, boy. Oh, it's right there in the Quran.
Yep. That is the Quran. And guys, you can look up the commentary of Ibn Abbas. You can look up the commentary of the two Jalals. You can look up Ibn Kathir. Everyone down to the 20th century knew exactly what that meant. Talking about sex with prepubescent girls. Somehow Somehow we watch a video from our buddy. So guys, just knowing that little bit right there. Aisha was prepubescent. The Quran allows sex with prepubescent girls and IP. What did Daniel Hakikachu say when you asked him about what's allowed in Islam as far as ages and so on?
In my debate, which is still online with Daniel Akikachu, I asked him, when can you marry and consummate a marriage with a girl? He said if there are signs of puberty. So I brought up precocious puberty.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, and, he said signs of maturity, which I don't know what's going on in his head, but in their commentaries, as far as Islamic jurisprudence, the maturity thing, that wasn't about being a mature person. They were concerned about two things. One, that the girl is not so small that if you penetrate her, you're going to give her a fistula and turn the two holes into one hole, right? So they're worried about that. And they're worried about the girl being so small that you're going to actually crush her during sex. So when they're talking about maturity in those contexts, they're talking about that. They're not talking. Here's the thing. It's like equivocation. You say, hey, we're concerned about maturity. For the Islamic scholars, maturity meant mature enough that you're not going to crush her while having sex. She's not a fragile little thing like a baby or something like that. And you're not, when you have sex with her, you're not going to rip her open and ruin her for the future. That's what they're concerned about. That's what they mean by maturity. So the issue, I don't know what Daniel means by if there are signs of maturity when he said, matter of fact, let's just, I got the clip right here. Let's see what he said.
You mentioned the period comes at the end of puberty. Are you saying someone can marry and have sex with someone prior to getting their period?
So according to Islamic law, when the body is fully formed because of puberty, the period comes at Tanner stage 4, which is the end of puberty. So yes, when there are signs of physical maturity, then it becomes permissible for the husband in Islamic law to have marital relationships or consummate the relation with his bride. And this is the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who married six.
Before the age of menarche, that's what I'm trying to get.
Before the period.
Okay.
Islamic
do you know
law.
what precocious puberty is?
Yes, I do.
He just said you can have sex before the period, right? Is that what he said?
Yeah, because he's pushed this nonsensical argument that it's all about maximizing fertility. But then he admits, no, it isn't, because you can't get pregnant until after you have your first period or reach the age of menarche. But he admits, no, you can have sex with a girl before they have their first period. So it never was about maximizing fertility. Mm-hmm. That was a lie. Daniel Hakikachu lied all those years, and I called him out on stage because I knew from studying him that he was lying.
Yeah, so in reality, it's just about sex with kids and not about maximizing fertility.
Exactly.
Let me back that up just so we're clear, and then we'll finish this.
And the period comes at the end of puberty. Are you saying someone can marry and have sex with someone prior to getting their period?
So according to Islamic law, when the body is fully formed because of puberty, the period comes at Tanner stage 4, which is the end of puberty. So yes, when there are signs of physical maturity, then it becomes permissible for the husband in Islamic law to have marital relationships or consummate the relation with his bride. And this is the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who married six.
Before the age of menarche, that's what I'm trying to get.
Before the period.
Okay.
Islamic
do you know
law.
what precocious puberty is?
So he just acknowledged you can have sex before a girl gets her period, right? Oh, you're silenced, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's acknowledged
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay. And then so you're saying, but he's still saying something about puberty as far as maturity and so on, as far as starting, as far as other signs or something like that. Again, I'm not even buying that because that's not required. I mean, he's saying, the beginning of puberty, not the later stage of puberty when you actually get your menstrual cycle. The Quran has none of that stuff. The Quran says nothing. It's just prepubescent. So.
Yes, I do.
Okay. What is it?
It means starting puberty unusually early, like
Can
beyond
you have,
averages.
Is there anything in Islam that prevents you from, a man marrying a 5-year-old that started precocious puberty?
No, marriage can happen, you can arrange a marriage even as an infant, but that doesn't mean that sex is allowed.
Okay, could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old, consummate it if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible, as I stated. That's
What about
the
age
principle.
4?
If there are signs
3.
of... So this is something that becomes biologically impossible, because precocious
I have a
puberty, there
study
are
that shows
no...
it goes as early as 11 months.
All right, well, that's something that the parents would not... See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved at these ages. And when you look at the marriage of the Prophet, peace be upon him, to Aisha, her parents were involved. And so she was not living with the Prophet, peace be upon him, even though she was married to him. So the parents have oversight, and sometimes a qadi or a judge can have oversight if the guardians are not capable, to make sure that the rights and the physical well-being of a child are not, or a minor, are not harmed by that marriage.
Wow. So yeah,
Did
parents
that
can decide if their 11-month-old should be married off if the child has started precocious puberty. So just remember that.
Yeah. Did you guys get that? And here's the problem. So he's saying there shouldn't be some law against sex with an 11-month-old. He's saying that's the parent's decision whether you can marry off your 11-month-old baby to some creepy pervert who's going to have sex with your 11-month-old baby. It's a parent's decision, but he's saying, parent's not going to decide that. The parents are under the control of people like Daniel Hakikachu, if he were the local scholar. And if the local guy wants your 11-month-old baby, what's he tell you? He says it's fine. No, there's signs of maturity, precocious puberty. She's ready for it. This is what's going on in the world of Dawah, ladies and gentlemen. You have people like Daniel Hakikachu going around defending this. And then you have people like Ali Dawah saying things like,
You asked me, would I allow my daughter to get married at 9? I'm saying the analogy is wrong because our teachers teach us the woman has to be sexually, mentally, and physically ready. That means if my daughter wants to menstruation, hold on, let me finish. If my daughter reached the age of menstruation at 9 years old, I would say you are ready. You are ready to get married.
he says, if my daughter gets the age of menstruation, and keep in mind, he's better than his sources, and he's being better than Daniel Hakikachu because neither the Quran nor the Hadith nor Daniel Hakikachu requires menstruation, right? Mm-hmm. This is just Ali Dawah being better than his sources. But he's saying he would tell his 9-year-old, if she gets her first period at the age of 9, that she's ready to get married. It's going to let's have Muhammad Hijab correct him right here on the idea that Islam requires a monthly period.
If you look just at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. The reason why it's haram to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old is not found in the Quran at all. If you just read the Quran, it is halal. It would be halal to have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old. In Surah Al-Talaq, chapter 65, verse 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us who you can divorce and who you cannot divorce. And then he says, وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ وَاللَّائِ لَمْ يَحِدْنَ, and the ones who had never been pubescent before. And by the way, this is very important, yeah? I want all Muslims to be aware of this. The reason why we don't have sexual intercourse with 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds or whatever is not because of puberty. Wait a minute, what did you say? It's not because of puberty, because that verse in the Quran actually says lam yahid. They never had puberty before.
Never had before.
You can't go around that.
Did you catch that? Can't go around that.
Yep.
Now, guys, just for the sake of honesty and full disclosure, Muhammad Hijab is not saying you can have sex with a 5-year-old. He's saying if you just went with the Quran, you would conclude that you can have sex with a 5-year-old because the Quran obviously allows you to have sex with prepubescent girls. He says you have to go outside of the Quran, this perfect book. You have to go outside of the Quran. And what he does is to get around to say you should not have sex with a 5-year-old is Muhammad once said, hey, don't harm others. And he says, but don't harm others. Therefore, you wouldn't have sex with a 5-year-old. Even though you can't just apply that as some sort of blanket command, right? Because Islam allows all kinds of harming and chopping heads off and so on. So yeah, it's just it's absolutely pathetic. But anyway, so we've Muhammad, who is the pattern of contact. Guess what? White Muslim guy. According to the Quran, Muhammad is the pattern of conduct. Muhammad did something, that is your pattern. That's what you're supposed to be looking at as your pattern. Did you know that ChatGPT is not your pattern of conduct in Islam? And that if ChatGPT says something that contradicts Muhammad's example, ChatGPT is completely irrelevant and would lose its head in an Islamic society if it had one. So anyway, let's go back and watch that original clip. Now that we've seen Ali Dawah, Muhammad Hijab, Daniel Hakikachu, and read multiple hadiths and what the Quran says about child marriage, and everyone can tell us what they think about this guy's answer. How correct is he?
Hey ChatGPT, does Islam allow you to marry children today?
Islam does not allow child brides today. Marriage in Islam requires consent, maturity, and the ability to fulfill responsibilities. Most Muslim countries set legal marriage ages, and scholars agree that marriage should happen only when both are mature and ready. Islam emphasizes justice and protection, aligning with ending child marriage.
If you're an Islamophobe, just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. Sorry, Charlie.
That's right, Islamophobe. Quran and
Quran,
the hadiths.
And hadith,
they're all Islamophobic.
And Daniel Hakikachu and Ali Dawah and Muhammad Hijab and every knowledgeable Muslim scholar who's ever existed. This guy got ChatGPT to share its thoughts from some absolutely ridiculous Muslim Dawah site. And that's it. That's all that matters. That's sorry, Allah and Muhammad, you've been completely humiliated.
Allah is an Islamophobe.
This is wild stuff, man.
Can you put my study on the screen?
Can I?
For people who want to claim that, well, Aisha was an adult at that age. No, very, very unlikely. In fact, girls today are maturing quicker than they were in the pre-modern era. And if we just scroll down here, we just read all this stuff here, look at the charts here. Here, I even have a line here just so you can see. So 20,000 years ago, girls were maturing much faster. Psychosocial maturation was matching, basically entering the age of puberty. And this is roughly, give or take, the age of menarche. So about 20,000 years ago, girls were reaching menarche a little bit over the age of 10. Then 2,000 years ago, due to agricultural settlement, more nutrition, it increases. So it actually is coming in at about looks like about 13 or 14. And then during that time, it continues to go up. And it's about 15 or so. And then in the present, when we have better nutrition, it goes back down to where it was 20,000 years ago. So Muhammad would have lived sometime in this area here. Aisha would not have reached her period. 2,000 years ago, the earliest girls were reaching the age of menarche, getting their first period, was after the age of 10. When did Aisha marry Muhammad? Or when did Muhammad consummate the marriage with Aisha? 9. There's no biological way she could have actually had her first period, reached the age of menarche about 1,400 years ago. That was the average was happening around 14 or so, around there. So no, it was not.
I wouldn't say impossible because there are ranges, but what you just pointed out actually lines up with what's in the Muslim sources. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani believes that Aisha still hadn't reached puberty by the time she was around 15 because she was still playing with dolls then. So what you just said actually lines up, that it's happening a little older than it is now.